Oh, I see. Okay.
Hey guys, Savage Joy here with Real Progressives. Tonight I'm excited. I have my number one requested guest from California, Miss Jovanka Beckles. She is running for State Assembly, California District 15. So
Uh,
thank you so much for coming tonight. We appreciate it.
Oh,
Um,
thank you very much for the invitation, Joy. Just
Absolutely.
getting a chance to chit chat with you and all the viewers. Thank you.
Absolutely. I can't even count how many messages. Please have Jovanka on. I'm like, I'm trying. I swear she's on my list.
Right,
I have a
right.
list of like so many, and then I just put them numbered, and you
Yeah.
were top 10 for like over
Wow.
a month. So I'm so glad we snatched you up before Tuesday. Um,
Gosh.
so you have, I mean, I can't go over your entire resume because you are just so accomplished and you do so much for your community. You have held a Richmond City Council position for 8 years.
Yes.
You work as a mental health specialist.
That's correct.
Um, and you are actually a longtime activist. So you're one of my favorite kinds of guests because you didn't wait till after November 8th, 2016 to be like, oh shit, I better do something. You've actually been in this fight for a long time.
That's
Um,
correct.
so why don't you first talk about your job on city council? What kind of things have you accomplished, and what are day-to-day things you deal with?
Well, day to day is the day to day issues are just our constituents, residents calling about different issues that are important to their neighborhoods, lights. The city have parked cars on the walkway, their driveways and sidewalks, and then of course the more serious, really serious things are residents who are at risk of being homeless due to landlords increasing their rents, and they just really can't afford not even another $25, let alone over $100. And that's the case now. There's a senior independent living uh, housing development in Richmond, and these are seniors who've worked their whole lives, are retired, moved into this place because they could afford it, and now the landlords, the owners of this complex, wants to raise their rents up by about another $135. And when you're on a fixed income, where in the world are you going to get another $135 to pay for rent? And so that's the more recent fight, and it really is. It's appalling, of course, and heartless, and it just seems such a immoral way of being. But those are the day to day things, and then the issues that I'm really proud of that I've brought forward to the city council, or even just helped vote on. The first thing I brought forward at the city council when I was elected in 2010, 2011, got right to work collaborating with community organizations like the Safe Return Project, whose membership, whose employment membership really is, they're all are returning citizens. They're all returning from incarceration, right? And they sat down with me and talked about the challenges that they're having finding employment. And we, as a city, what we could do is we could create an ordinance, and it's called Ban the Box, or it's more known as Ban the Box, but the actual name is Fairness in Employment. And what that does is it takes away that question that asked, that the application asked, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Have you ever been, in jail? And then, we all know what that means, because the minute they answer that question, that's it. They're no longer even a candidate, a viable candidate. And we took that question off of our city applications, as well as our ordinance states. It also takes that question off, and ask our vendors to take that question off of there. So if they want to do business with the city of Richmond, they cannot have that question on there. And now, even more that I'm really proud of is we're also working to take that question to remove it from public housing. And what happens is, when you've been incarcerated, you have to go back where you offended. And if you were living in public housing, you can no longer go back there because that's part of it. And so we're really working on a fairness in housing as well. But other things that we've done that's really amazing and really revolutionary for the city of Richmond. We created the most progressive ban the box policy in the country. So, we didn't say, okay, yeah, let's do it. We did the best. We did the most progressive. We also, our sanctuary city, we also created a municipal ID program, which really enable our undocumented population, our undocumented residents, to be able to have a municipal ID card. And this was before the state of California changed the rules, and now folks can actually have a driver's license. But we did these kinds of innovative things to stand up, defend, and really advocate on behalf of all of our residents. And so this municipal ID card, in essence, wasn't just for undocumented folks, but you also have people who are, for whatever reasons, maybe they're homeless. They have no idea where most of their possessions are. And so that allowed people who are homeless as well to be able to get a municipal ID card. Other things we've done, in Richmond that really, that I'm also very proud of that I brought forward is of course, first and foremost, rent control. The state of California had not had any cities with rent control policies in over 30 years. And in Richmond, we did that. We passed an ordinance. Now, unfortunately, we knew that it would be coming, that the landlord association, right, and the apartment association, they gathered signatures to repeal our ordinance. But that's one of those things that really worked out for in our best interest, because when they repealed our ordinance as a city council, community members started gathering signatures of their own, and it was put on the ballot, and it passed overwhelmingly. So we can talk about so many things in Richmond that we're so proud of. We're also proud of the fact that we have a moratorium on new schools, and we know. And one of the things that my platform is we also need a moratorium on charter schools at the state level. And so that's one of the platforms that I really intend to work on. So we have a moratorium on new schools. We could do that in Richmond. We can definitely do it at the state level. And here's the thing that really I think is just so phenomenal that we started in Richmond, and that was we started this corporate free movement, Joy, right? Because I think that in Richmond, people thought, oh, Richmond, is a, is a majority community of color. Many people don't have, higher education, and so they're not paying attention. But when we started electing corporate free city council members, we sent a loud message that, don't think we're not stupid. We see the correlation between voting for elected officials who are beholden to corporations, and what happens when we elect people who are not beholden to those corporations, but instead are working on behalf and standing up for the people. So as a result of that, we now have a city council that holds Chevron accountable. We have the Richmond Promise, and that was because we got a community, what am I looking for? The benefits agreement. And through that agreement, we got millions of dollars to be able to have the Richmond Promise, which basically gives a grant to every single Richmond student who graduates and wants a scholarship. We have scholarships for every last one of those students. So there have been so many phenomenal things, and it just really is exciting and shows the power of the people and what we can do when we unite as a force. We can beat these multi-billion-dollar corporations and have the things that we want and that we need and that we deserve, the kinds of resources. And so, I'll stop there. But it's been really exciting, and people are now really giving Richmond the respect and credit that we deserve, because we're holding this corporation accountable. Where we stood up to Wall Street when we were having the housing crisis, and we were coming to the rescue of our homeowners. But unfortunately, Wall Street interjected and intervened in our little democracy and threatened us, and so we ended up having to drop that program. But it's exciting what can happen when we start electing corporate free candidates. We can have the things that we want.
Awesome. That is so inspiring. That's amazing. And as you're talking, all I can think is if you and Gail McLaughlin both get in, like, California is just like, oh my gosh, everybody will want to move there. Like, that's awesome.
That's right. But yeah, it's as California goes, so goes the rest of the country. And I think that when we elect the first corporate free lieutenant governor, the first corporate free assembly member, I think it's really going to give people the people will start to feel like, oh, wait a second, okay, this is the way to be. I think we'll really start to push all of these other members, these legislatures, start to push them farther to the left, and be able to, I think, give them the courage to stand up to all of those lobbyists that are lobbying them to increase their bottom line.
Absolutely. I think 2016, I think Bernie woke a lot of people up in that regard, because so many of us didn't realize that, how much money really was behind so many candidates. And, now, thankfully, I mean, I've interviewed over 80 candidates and they've all been corporate money free, because that's a litmus test. You're not progressive if you take money. It's that simple.
That's right. And Joy, you may not be surprised, and none of the folks watching this may be surprised, but when I went to talk to, let's say, for example, the LGBT caucus, when I went to talk to the African American caucus, they asked the question, are you gonna, basically you're gonna take corporate money. And I had to, maintain my stance. And I told them no. And, that's not something that they were really happy about. In fact, really? told me so. I think that, for some reason they think that, candidates who are deciding to not take corporate money, really, it's sort of a call out. You're being called out for what you're doing. And so trying to convince me that I absolutely cannot win about not taking corporate money. You have to. And they told me, all of them are, basically, who am I to think that, I can do this? And I don't think that, I'm anybody. I'm just an activist who wants a better world, who wants justice. And that, and we can't do that by being beholden to, corporate sponsors, those corporations that, insert lots and lots of money into their campaigns. We can't do it that way. We have to be free from corporate rule. And one of the ways we're free is that we take not one penny from them.
Absolutely. I think so many people don't understand that, you can't take money and then also say you want Medicare for all. How is that going to happen? That election is not a win. It's a purchase.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And then for those who may not necessarily see the connection, you can look at Anthony Rendon and the fact that, Medicare for all stalled on his desk, right? And then you do the research and you follow the money, and then you see he took over $400,000 from the pharmaceutical companies. Well, guess who he's working for? He's not working for us at that with that much money inserted into, helping him get elected.
But then they had him speak at the women's march. What was that?
Right.
Oh my God. That just made no sense.
It was, it did make sense. It was an insult, but I really like that activists really called him out.
Oh yeah.
There are times when we absolutely should be respectful and cordial, but not when it comes to our lives. And healthcare issues is a matter of life or death. And so, no, being cordial and being respectful that was one of the times when, that's the time to call people out on these kinds of actions, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are endorsed by so many groups. And we'd spend the whole night just listing them. So you're endorsed by some DSAs, some
Yeah.
Greens,
Yes.
some unions,
Yes.
and Miss Nina and the Maine Our Revolution, which
Yeah.
is a big deal because, smaller our revolutions, we have chapters all over, and that's a huge deal, but you got the main endorsement too. So
So proud.
that's pretty badass.
Yeah. I'm so honored. Yes, six unions have endorsed our campaign because we recognize the only way we're going to get things is that when we unify. So six unions, five environmental groups, and of course so many community oriented organizations, and those that you've mentioned. Then there's the Berkeley Progressive Alliance, the Richmond Progressive Alliance, the Pinole Progressive Alliance, and the list does go on. And I am proud of all of those endorsements because really, endorsement says a lot about who you are as a person. Because people who have been watching, who are watching people's voting records, who have the values that you share. When they endorse you, it really means the world to me because they're not going based on, oh, we think Jovanka is, I don't know, cute or something. It's just we think Jovanka speaks well. I mean, it's all about my track record of standing up for working people and children and families and people with mental health issues. I mean, they've seen that, and that's really what matters more than any. I call them celebrity politicians, just giving their name because you owe them and the party, you owe the party something. And I think that we're showing that those days of paying people back favors are over, and we are paying attention. We are awake. If the word could be, if we could use a word, just for lack of a better one, that the good, I suppose, and I use that in quotes, that came out of this awful person in the White House is that it woke everyone up.
Yeah.
We might have still been in a slumber had that not happened, but it was the loudest boom and whistle and alarm that has ever been sounded, really. I believe that's been sounded, and it woke us up, and now folks are really beginning to understand that it's so critical that we participate in this process, because when we weren't participating, that's what happens. We get what we have now, but we're awake now, and we're understanding that we have to put our own in these seats. And during the Occupy movement, we it was a movement where people started to understand that, oh yeah, we have to wake up. But when he was elected, we were up. We couldn't fall back asleep, because I think that even with the Occupy movement, we kind of fell back asleep a little bit, because you know how it is. You can't just wake right up, right? Sometimes it takes you a little while. But him being elected really woke us up, and is keeping us up.
Yeah, absolutely. We have an obligation. I mean,
Absolutely, that's right.
as humanists and as any kind of people with empathy or a conscience, or that's the best thing he did, was
Yes.
wake people up, and it was totally inadvertent. Like, he can't take credit for it, but in a way, thank you. In some weird way.
Yes.
So what's that?
I said no, absolutely.
Can you describe a little bit about what you do as a mental health specialist? What realm you work in?
Yeah, I work for the county, Contra Costa County, Children's Mental Health, and what I do specifically is I'm a wraparound facilitator. And wraparound program is really a model that's gaining so much ground because it really works. It works, and it helps families and the children who are, the identified client or identified patient. It helps these children and their families, and to increase the quality of life. And so it is a multidisciplinary approach to addressing the challenges that these children are having in school and in the community and at home. And what I do is I bring all of the providers, teachers, principals, social workers, probation officers, police in some cases. Bring all of those providers to the table, and we sit down and we develop one goal. Before wraparound, everyone was trying to, help, but everyone had their own goals. The teachers, in the classroom had their own goals, and, the IPs and all these different things that I attend. And then, the social worker, they may have their own goal as well. But when you bring everybody to the table, you come up with one goal. Now we're all working together towards that one goal. And that's what I do. So it's, I have to I work with all of these different personalities. And some of those personalities may not necessarily be ones that I may be particularly fond of. But keeping that goal and that child and that family in mind, I have to figure out how to work with all of us to keep us on track. And so that's what I do. In addition to facilitating wraparound meetings, I also mentor kids. We do therapeutic groups after school. And so it really is so rewarding when you work with a child for, oh boy, maybe 5, 6, 7 years, and then you see them in the community. Miss Jovanka, how are you? Do you remember me? And a smile, it really means the world because me as a human being, we're able to actually make a difference. And now, they're able to thrive. They're able to really make it in this world, get a job, maintain friendships. And so it's really a rewarding thing. But it really helps me also to see firsthand the challenges that families overall have. And what I was able to see is that, you have parents, both, mothers and fathers who have been incarcerated, struggling daily just to be able to get a job. I see these children, a lot of the issues that they have stem from just generational trauma, but just daily stress of not having food or being stressed and taking on the stressors of their families who they know are stressing out and having lots of anxiety because they don't know where they're going to live because they just got a notice from their landlord. So food insecurity, housing insecurity, the folks coming back, mothers who want to work but can't because they can't afford childcare. Some of these children having a really late start in school because they can't either find or afford pre-K, right? And so all of these things, are things that I saw, not being able to afford the basic necessities of life because they're making minimum wage. And so these were all the reasons why I ran for city council in the first place. And that was, it's one thing to heal a child and heal the family, but if society is unjust and if society is sick, so to speak, then everything that we do as mental health specialists and providers, it doesn't help the families to heal. And so when I saw these things firsthand, I thought to myself, then I think what needs to happen is we need to have people in power to be able to create the kinds of policies that level that playing field. And so I ran for city council because I wanted to create policies to help the families and children that I work with. And 8 years later, really proud that that's what we did. We raised the minimum wage in Richmond. I brought that forward. Our minimum wage right now, Joy, is $13.41. And as of next year, it's going to be $15 by January of 2019, right? And that's what happens when we elect people, our own, put ourselves in those positions of power. We can have the things that we're marching for and protesting and fighting for. We can have that. And that's what we have in Richmond. And that's what I want to take and bring forward as the next Assembly District 15 Assemblywoman.
Awesome. That's so awesome. Because in Pennsylvania, ours is still $7.25 or $7.50 or something like that. I mean, I don't know if you could live on that, especially if you have kids. I can't fathom.
Yeah, it's next to impossible. It's next to impossible. And, no wonder we're seeing an increase of tents and homeless folks. It's because we're the rules, the current laws that are on the books are there to increase the bottom line of corporations or corporate sponsors. And so while billionaires are getting richer and richer, and some of them are headed towards being trillionaires, which really, really disgusts me, that just that thought that one person can have so much money while the rest of us have so little. I think that that's right. That's wrong. And we have to do everything within our power to right those kinds of wrongs.
Absolutely. So, on that note, as far as healthcare, you do support universal healthcare, and mental health is such a huge part of that because there's so much mental health needs that are going completely ignored because they can't afford the services or the medications or what have you. And then also take away the stress of being able to afford the medication and stuff. It's going to be less needed. So is that kind of where your support for universal healthcare stems from?
Absolutely, absolutely. It stems from, we where I work, the clinic where I work, we have a waiting list, because there was a time when you could refer a family to a list of providers who accept Medi-Cal, right? For example. And now that list has dwindled. And the reason why so many people aren't accepting Medi-Cal anymore is because the reimbursement rate is ridiculous. It's really awful. So yeah, when we have Medicare for all, these are the kinds of things that people won't really have to worry about because, everyone will get the care that they need. And everyone deserves a quality health care. So yeah, mental health care, dental care. I hear stories. My mother being one of them. I hear stories of folks who are living in are in retirement. Folks who are retired or living on a fixed income. And if you don't have dental care, then you are really it makes life really difficult because now you have to figure out how to get these like thousands of dollars sometimes, um, just to be able to get the services that you need. And so, Medicare, quality Medicare is a human right, and I've been fighting for that since 2011, and I will continue to fight for it until we all get it. And I believe California is a state that can do it, even if we don't get it federally. I believe California, pardon me, fifth largest economy in the world, within the largest economy in the world, we certainly can pull that off. I believe we can.
Absolutely. As someone as someone not in California, you guys are the closest we've had. So yeah. You guys, you have it. It's shelved, but you guys have it. And I think when it happens, it's going to be you guys paving the way for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
California.
You also, on that note, housing, because you mentioned homeless people. You talked a little bit about rent control. How is the homeless population in District 15?
I really believe, we are in a crisis, and I think we're really at a point where homelessness has to be, we're in a state of emergency with regard to homelessness. I mean, it's getting worse, and that's why, in Richmond, we decided to do something about it. But the issue really is going to be, and has to be, a district-wide. We have to take a district-wide approach to dealing with our homeless crisis that we're seeing. So one of the things, even though Richmond, we were the first city to have rent control, the first city in 30 years to have rent control, our hands are tied with regard to, the kind of powers that we can actually use to help our residents. And so that's why at the state level, we have to repeal Costa-Hawkins and the Ellis Act, which, allows landlords to, evict folks and kick people out of their units, easily. And so that's why so many of us who are corporate free, not taking any money from those folks, the landlord association, apartment association. That's why we support repealing Costa-Hawkins, and it's still on my platform, even though once again the community, right, has just we rose up and said, you know what, we don't have time to wait on political will of elected officials. So they were able to gather over 500,000 signatures to put the repeal of on the ballot. Yes.
Wow. That's
Yes.
incredible. So half a
Pretty.
million signatures.
Yes.
Wow.
Ballot. And so all those folks who, I'm sure that they'll pull out every trick in the book to keep people from voting on it. But we have this grassroots, people powered approach to getting the things we need. I think that the message is out there. If you want true rent control, we have to repeal that law that was created in 1995. And and of course it what Costa-Hawkins does is it those buildings and projects that were built after 1995 are exempt from rent control. And so, see, that's why the heritage apartments, where I told you earlier, independent senior retired community, they don't have it because it was built after 1995. And so that's why, it can be raised. But when we pass the repeal of Costa-Hawkins, California could be the first state that, the whole state is rent control. And that'd be beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wouldn't that be wonderful? And San Francisco, yeah, continue to do their thing, because San Francisco has the most concentrated amount of billionaires in the country. And so, you can only see why there's so many people who are homeless, and why our traffic is horrendous these days, because people can no longer afford to live where they work. Now, even though it has, the largest cluster of billionaires in the country, they still need services, right? So you still have to have people who are doing are in the service industry. And if those people can't afford to work there, no wonder we see traffic being congested to really levels that I've never seen in the Bay Area.
Wow, that's a really good point. Do you support a federal job guarantee?
A federal job guarantee, I like that. I think it's at the same thing as like a universal basic income. Is sort of.
It would work with it. The problem with standalone UBI is that they take away all other programs. So nobody would have Medicaid or Social Security or anything like that. And in other countries, they found that the average payment is only $621 per person. So it doesn't cut it. But as far as the federal job guarantee, it's federally mandated, but the state is the one who puts it into effect. And it guarantees anyone who wants to work can work. They have a job. Yeah. So you see crumbling infrastructure and stuff, and you have homeless people who want jobs. Here you go.
There
Things
you go.
like that.
There you go. Imagine how many jobs are going to be created when we start, right? When we start putting those resources, taking the resources away from wars, trillions of dollars, and start to rebuild our infrastructure. That alone is going to create so many jobs. And so, yes, I absolutely support that. But we really have to get away from this war economy and get back into the economy where we're taking care of, of our residents of this country, but especially our residents in this district. And that's where, that's where my focus is.
Yeah, understandable. I digress a little, but you do talk a lot about on your platform the criminal justice reform, and I've had a lot of guests from California on, and a lot of candidates, I should say, and they talk about a lot of private prisons in California, and any progressive in the world knows that is by design, and it is to hurt people of color. That's a fact.
Absolutely.
So, what do you hope to see? What plans do you want to implement to, start overcoming?
Right. Well, we absolutely need to end private prisons, for-profit prisons. That has to end. But I think that, we can actually start by just reforming the criminal justice system, period. And within that, that challenge lies. For me, that's my platform. It's dear to my heart to reform the criminal justice system. One of the things that we, can start happening right away is ending mandatory sentencing. That can happen. We can create those kinds of policies. We can create true expungement for people who have a record for, marijuana, for cannabis. Seattle just did it, expunged the record of going back 30 years of people who have that record for minor drug offenses. And those are the kinds of things that can happen right away. We can also end right away. We can end the bail bond system, which again, right, affects so negatively people of color. Sandra Bland, say her name. Sandra Bland is not with us anymore because of that. Had she been white, she wouldn't have been stopped in the first place because she was
absolutely.
But then if she were a wealthy woman, she definitely would not have had to spend a second in jail there, and ending up losing her life at the hands of I think some really corrupt things going on in that state, but just within that criminal justice system. So these are the things that we can go right to work, as soon as we help elect one of our own. These are the kinds of things that we can go to work right away. Mandatory sentencing, we know how that works. A judge has no wiggle room to do anything, and those are the kinds of things that can end. The other thing that can end is the school to prison pipeline and shackling kids. I think it's deplorable that children have to be shackled. And one of the kids that I work with ended up in juvenile hall for something that was not she wasn't violent offense, and they shackled this 14-year-old girl. Talk about the trauma that inflicts. And ever since that, she's changed, right? And I remember I asked about that, like, why? How can we change this law? Is this a Contra Costa? And it's not. It's not just a county law. It's a state law, and I intend to bring forward legislation that bans shackling young people for minor offenses. It's just wrong.
Wow, so, that's so inhumane.
Wow. That's right. But these are things that we can do. And we can do that when you have candidates that are not beholden to, law enforcement unions. All right. The other thing is, of course, the Police Officers' Bill of Rights that protects cops who murder unarmed citizens. It protects them. And we've seen even throughout the country when they are prosecuted or fired, there's the law, they get to go to another department, and those records tend to be sealed. And now, they're still get a job. You and I couldn't kill unarmed people and then end up getting another job doing the same thing. And even if it were an accident, even if accidentally I hurt one of the kids or family members that I work with in my capacity as a mental health specialist, I'm not going to be able to get another job working in this field, yet they are. And so that's why the Police Officers' Bill of Rights needs to be, we have to reform it because we can't continue to allow these racist, corrupt police officers to get away literally with murder.
Right, and then or get suspended with pay or forced retirement with severance.
Exactly. And I'm so glad you brought that up, Joy, because that's one of the conversations I have with folks. It's like, wait a second, you kill someone, and now you're basically getting a vacation. I mean, that pretty much says job well done. Take 2 weeks off on us. That's basically what they're saying. That's not a deterrent. All right, that doesn't sound like a deterrent at all. So if they get in trouble, they'll just get a paid vacation, and they get to come back and continue to be who they are. And we're saying, as a community, as the large community that we are, enough is enough. We're done with that, and we're going to do something about it.
Absolutely, right on. Needs to change. You also you were born in Panama, so. As someone, I mean, I know you live in California and everything, but as someone, I know there are a lot of immigrants in California. How is all of this affecting you?
You know, it doesn't necessarily affect me personally, but it definitely affects the people that I care about, and I care about people in general. But when you're tearing families apart, when when you are discriminating against immigrants, I have a big problem with that, because I am an immigrant myself, and which is why it was easy for us to pass, at the city council, to pass our ordinance. We're a sanctuary city. That's why we created the municipal ID program, because when I understand that folks aren't necessarily, people are coming to another country to improve the quality of life for themselves. But when we have laws in the United States that really contributes to why people want to come here, then we should be way more welcoming than we are, especially when half of it, more than half of it has to do with the kinds of policies that we have, and people can't make a living where they live. And so, in Richmond, our police officers, we pass a policy that, that they are not going to prioritize these ICE raids and cooperate with ICE. We have done all that we can as a little old city, to stand up and advocate for our immigrant community. And in fact, we just also passed, and I brought that forward too. We brought forward an ordinance that will sever ties with businesses that are using data to collect data, for not just the immigrant population, but just data period. And you know what happens when data is collected? It's used against people for their religious and sexual, and I mean everything, right? So when you have these kinds of laws, I just we are doing what we can, and so our police department will no longer be able to utilize businesses that are taking data and giving it to ICE. And so, we're that's why I like to call Richmond the Rebel City, because we're not just going to sit by, right, and watch our community members and residents of our community be targeted for any reason, and we do what we can within the law to defend those rights of as humans.
I really wish I could vote for you. That's one thing about this show that drives me nuts is of like, I have guests from all across the country and I always find candidates and I'm like, this isn't fair. Can I just stay with you for a month so I can vote with you and then change my address along the way? And on that note, and I'll remind you guys before it's over too, Tuesday. This is a huge deal. We're counting on you guys to get out there. Also, you are part of the LGBTQ community, so you are very well respected. I saw the Harvey Milk Club was posting. What kind of things do you do in that community? What kind of like events and such?
Yeah, well, before I got on the city council, we didn't have any out council members at all, ever in the history of the city. And since having an out representative for the city, now we have, and really it had to do with some really abusive attacks on who I am as an out lesbian. And the community joined forces. We came forward and basically, told these people that we're not going to have this in our city, really. And so as a result of that, we have more people who are now being out and proud. And we have an organization that was created as a result. It's called the Richmond Rainbow Pride. Richmond has never had an LGBTQ organization, and we have one now. And now we fly the flag, the pride flag, and now we have Richmond Pride. And I believe we're on our 4th year. Time flies sometimes, but yeah, we now have Pride celebration in Richmond. And that's really a beautiful thing, because prior to, having someone who's out and proud, we didn't even have any kind of pride flags or anything on buildings, and now we do. And I think that it really empowers our young people to be who they are, empowers older folks even who have felt that they have had to live in silence. It's really empowering our community to be who we are, to be proud of who we are, and to stand up for what we are, and just live our lives. Live our lives with pride, and it also shows, when you have out representatives, it really helps people to see that, you know you don't have to live in the closet anymore. Right? And I think Harvey Milk did that. Of course, so he's one of my heroes. We've had heroes throughout history. Bayard Rustin, also, one of my heroes. Angela Davis, one of my heroines. And so we have people who are doing these phenomenal work, and being who they are. And I think that that's what the future generation needs. And that's what we need right now.
That's true. Oh my gosh.
So,
Yes.
may I just say one more thing? We've also never had in the state of California, can you believe it, 2018, we've never had an out lesbian of color in the assembly. Never. Isn't
Wow.
that time?
And you're the most, what everyone considers the most liberal state,
Right.
the most progressive state. Wow,
I
that's
never
wow.
had color out lesbian in the assembly. So we're ready to change that, Joy.
Heck yeah. I think you'd be the epitome of the one to set a precedent. I
Right.
think you'd be a great choice to kick that off. So
Right.
if you would like to leave our viewers with something for them to take away, to, if they're not in California, to recommend you to their loved ones there, or even share the show, what do you want to leave them with tonight?
I want to say exactly what you said. And please, share the show. Go to jovanka.org, share the website, share our, Facebook messages, social media. But, it's, and all the more now that Facebook is seriously tripping. Facebook is I don't know if you've heard, but we've been boosting posts all year long for over a year now, boosting ads. And now this happened I think it was Tuesday. So 6 days before the election, they're rejecting all of my requests to boost posts. So, but hey, you know what? That's okay, because we're gonna still. I think it just makes us want to fight even harder, because really that's wrong. Because what happens when they do these kinds of underhanded things is that it really helps those corporate candidates, right, with all the money, who can send all those mailers and billboards and all these kinds of things. And we're just going to show them that you're not going to shut us out. So please, go to my Jovanka Beckles Facebook campaign Facebook page. Please share our information. Tell your friends, your family, your neighbors. Go out and vote. And one of the candidates that I support for Alameda County DA, what she always says, and I agree and I concur and want to use the same thing: go out and vote June 5th, this Tuesday, as if your life depended on it, because our lives do depend on it. The planet is dying, and it's dying because you have legislators who are doing the bidding of the oil companies, right, the fossil fuel industry, and allowing fracking to continue, and allowing these kinds of things, and not holding the fossil fuel industry accountable. And so our planet is dying. We cannot afford to continue this way. We have to start electing corporate-free candidates. And so I'm excited. Let's get the word out in every creative way that we see fit. And we do need volunteers to canvass, to make phone calls. The phone banking system software that we have is super, super easy. We'll give it to you. You can do it from the comfort of your own home, have your wine or whatever you want, and make some calls for us to help get the word out. So yeah, together we are more powerful beyond measure.
Power the people, stronger than the people in power. Always.
Always.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining us, Jovanka. I actually got a surprise today that I'm doing 3 shows tomorrow now because I'm having my buddy, Mr. Stephen Jaffe's coming back on. So I'm excited. He recommended you as well.
Stephen.
Yeah.
Right
oh, please, Jaffe and Pelosi out, please, please.
Yes.
Please, anyone watching, share this to your friends in California. Encourage everyone to vote. Yes. There are 8 primaries on Tuesday. We are still in primary season. We are looking to you guys. There's no more slacktivist time.
Right.
We need to do this. You guys talk about getting Bernie in 2020. Awesome. Of course, I'm for it. But we're not going to get him in if we don't have progressives in office. Yes. So we need to do this shit now. Let's talk about that later. Let's get people in office who represent us. And then we can move forward from there. So tomorrow, Jaffe's at 5 Eastern. So thank you again so much, Jovanka. I'm so glad I snatched you up before Tuesday. I wish you the best of luck.
All right.
Absolutely. Take care.
Bye-bye.